Modern grading is in a bubble. Sports cards are not necessarily in a bubble, but modern grading is, and I'm going to explain why. A couple examples first. Check out this Zion Pop Report. We all remember this calamity. There are more PSA 10s than all the other grades combined. This thing was worth 500 bucks. Now it's worth 20. Luca, who's actually a good player, has the same problem. There are more PSA 10s of his Prism rookie than all the other tiers 9, 8, 7, and so on combined. So how did we get here? I mean, this is ridiculous. Grading used to actually mean something. Like in the 90s, a PSA 10 Jordan rookie or a BGS 9.5 was like a badge of honor. It was something for your personal collection. Maybe you auction it off, but it really meant something. And then once the money got big and the influencers entered the space, grading turned into a casino, much like our society has turned into a casino now that we can gamble at will on our phones at any moment in a game. And it's not really about condition anymore. It's about control and who decides what's a PSA 10 and who profits when you resubmit and how many times do you resubmit. It's very interesting to think about that. And the pop charts are reflecting it. So let's talk about overgrading and the pop explosion first, because that is really the bomb that set this off. I mean, the pop reports are insane. I just showed you, these tens of thousands of cards are graded at 10, and they're just like, they're not worthless, but they're pretty close to worthless, and I imagine they have room to fall. But like, if there's 100,000 PSA 10s in one given Prism year, how rare is that? It's not rare. You already know the answer. You're smart if you're watching this. And so like this gem mint label, it's been completely devalued by the flood because there's more gem mint cards than non-gem mint cards. And that is so stupid. And it's not just PSA, it's everybody. SGC, Tag is guilty of it as well, especially in the Pokemon space. They're all chasing market share. How do you chase market share? You want to please the customer. How do you please the customer? You give them the grades that they want, or you give them just a good enough grade where they have to think about resubmitting. So you get that sweet kind of like rerun money. That happens with repacks too. If you don't like your repack, you can sell it back at 90%, do that 5 times, and the repack companies are also making bank. So this is all like a game of roulette. I'm going to call it regrade roulette. Like the smartest flippers, they don't even care about the card. They care about the label. They care way more about the label. I've been guilty of that myself with vintage cards. I'll look at something like this, and these are both 3s. They are very different cards. But if one was a 4 and actually looked worse than these, I would value the 4 higher. I'm guilty of it. Most people buy the grade; they don't buy the card. Some savvy collectors do buy the card and then they crack and they resubmit and so on. But a lot of people, they'll send the same card 5 times until they get a 10. I've seen people like Neo's Comics run experiments like this. The same card will get like a 5, a 10, an 8, and a 9. It's, if you hit that 10, it could be a $500 profit or a 10x return. It's a slot machine. It's literally a slot. You are sending it into a grading slot machine. It's fun, but that's what's fueling the addiction and potential fraud as well. You got a raw card, that's $250. The PSA 9 could be $200 sometimes because you're baking in the chance of the 10. And then the PSA 10 might be $700. And it's just a mess. I don't know how. I think AI is going to have to step in on things like centering and surface and stuff like that, because right now, this is Las Vegas. Let's talk about trust for a second too with grading. When you have veteran collectors start cracking slabs and they say like, I trust my eyes more than PSA, then you know the system's broken. I have run into that with autographs myself. I have been astounded at PSA's ability to fail autographs, especially last year. You could have video footage from the signing and it did not matter. And I'm a fairly prolific autograph collector, and I could look at something and be like, yeah, that's good or that's bad. And I feel like I know more than the graders at that time. They have since corrected this, and they are doing a very good job with a 100 card submission I'm doing. But they had a right, and I'm not just going to pick on PSA. Other companies have the same issue as well. So like we all want consistency. Not it's like you want a good referee in an NBA game. You don't want a corrupt referee, and you don't want like a referee that's half asleep, or you don't want a referee that's, I don't know, 21 years old and it's their first game. You want consistency, and now it's kind of like we all just want luck. It really is a casino. And what happens? What happens if we lose trust in the system? It's not infallible. If the financial system in America could take a hit, 2008, 2009, I assure you the grading market could take a massive hit. Just like NFTs. NFTs are down 99.9% from where they were. It's pretty easy to call. FOMO and bubbles are fun. But grading could go there. PSA seems like a god right now, but man, it's so easy for that. I mean, they do control a lot of aspects of the value chain, but a few things could happen. I'll talk about Fanatics in a minute. It could dethrone them. I think Fanatics overnight, this is a quick segue. I think Fanatics could put card ladder and market movers out of business within a year by including QR codes in their packs and encouraging a comp system based on crowdsourcing. That'd be fascinating to watch. I think they could wreck them. They may not want to do that, put their efforts there, but it's interesting, right? So grades are inconsistent, and what do we think is going to replace that? I do think AI grading plays a role here. I think it could be a set of guardrails. We have video in a tennis match. You decide if the ball is in or out. That's very easy. So centering, I think, is the most easy thing to do with AI. I think surface is probably a close second. You can probably tell the surface pretty well. Creases, stains, things like that. And then maybe you hand it off, pre-qualified by an AI grading system to a human being, which I think is okay. And then make sure it's double checked by another human being. The other thing that's interesting here is I want to encourage you all to think about a world. Let's just pretend that Fanatics made perfect cards and Panini and Upper Deck made perfect cards. There were no defects. What would happen to the modern grading system? What does that mean? Can they even do that? And if they could, would they want to? The only other industry like this is diamonds, where defects can value something significantly more than another one. But diamonds have natural defects. Cards have defects that happen to them, or they're created from the process. But you look at the parallels. The diamond market is a monopoly. De Beers owns 80% of it. They have a massive vault. I did a case study on this during my MBA. And when times of demand are slow, they decrease the supply. And when times are high, they go the other way. And they literally control supply and demand curve like a cartel with drugs. And, for 100 years, men have had to buy diamond rings for women. And we don't really have a choice. You sort of have to. And so the only thing they ever have to worry about is cyclical trends, like maybe COVID postponed a lot of weddings or engagements or things like that. And they just, change things according to supply. So think about that with trading cards and sports cards. Right now, Pokemon's booming, and that's supporting PSA. What happens when they don't? What does PSA do in response to that? How do they handle giving out 10s? It's a very interesting thing to think about, and how the company's going to handle this ethically if, all the cards are perfect. But right now, it's roulette. And I think eventually the modern grading game is going to be impacted by it. And, it's not about protecting collectors here. It's protecting profits. They have to have that PSA 10 value remain higher than BGS and tag. That is very important. And so what would be the motivator behind that, especially with them buying back cards and everything? It's interesting. I mean, it's nothing like, I get it. If I ran the company like Nat, I would do the exact same thing. You just own the value chain, control it, profit off of all the different levels of the value chain, the listings and so on and so on. But in the end, that's why it could die pretty quickly, because it's not really modern grading anymore. It's modern roulette. And it's really about that label. this label at the top. That's what matters more. It matters more than the card. And that label almost represents a chance now. And that's interesting. So I'm going to follow this a little bit deeper. I like to break things down this way. So if you want to follow along, hit that button. Thanks, everyone.